Hey guys, making another video today. Today is Friday, October 31st, so it's Halloween. Today I want to make a video about something I had read in Titus. Since yesterday I was in the book of James, so I was kind of around that area reading around today and found Titus. And if you don't know, that book is basically Paul just writing to Titus after he had sent Titus to Crete to appoint elders. I believe it was to actually replace elders, not appoint them for the first time. And Paul basically gave him a whole letter of kind of what to look for in people and stuff like that. And one of the things Paul also wrote that caught my eye that I thought I would make a video about is in chapter 2, where he says, encourage the young men to be self-controlled. In this topic, I've talked about it many times, maybe skipping over a little bit, maybe going a little in depth in a bunch of my videos where I talk about, giving advice to younger men. And one of the things that I wanted to point out on that topic is something that Paul says a couple verses later in chapter 3, which is, do whatever is good, slander no one. And you already know where I'm going with this. I've said it before that a lot of young men these days like to put themselves over one another by slandering each other, making fun of someone else, putting them down for a laugh, just making it seem like they're better than everyone else or better than a certain person, whether for social gain, in a friend group, maybe it's on social media, maybe it's to gain the attention of women, maybe it's to gain, just some sort of status. And obviously that's wrong. You shouldn't be slandering other people. And if someone does wrong to you, Paul says elsewhere, I believe it may have also been, I think it was in Galatians where Paul says, even for a divisive person, forgive them twice before moving on. So even as well through Jesus, it tells us to forgive each other. If someone's being mean to you, the first reaction you should have shouldn't be, oh, you this, and this, because you just can't be seen as getting, I don't even know how to say, getting, I'll just say made fun of, especially in front of other people. Guys just can't take that. It's like, oh, I look bad in front of these other people, and like he's better than me. I gotta hit him back with something that's even better. It's like, why do you care? Why do you care? Slandering other people is not worth your effort. Shouldn't be getting angry in the first place, giving into anger, which leads to doing actions like slandering anyway. I know in the heat of the moment, that's not always easy to not give into, especially if you're a young man in like a school setting and some guy in your class, tries to make fun of you. For you to kind of just sit there and not say something back in anger or whatever. I know that's not hard, that's not easy. Especially you think your social standing might suffer if you don't clap back something with something, that's even better or whatever. But none of that matters. A lot of young men are gonna tell you that what matters is, oh, getting with this girl, oh, I did this with this girl and this with that girl and this and that. And you're gonna start to feel, I guess, just less them because you haven't done something with a girl or whatever yet, and you're like, I don't know, for young men, I'll just say, for this video, I'll just say teenagers, but to be fair, in the context of what Paul was saying, I believe Paul was saying men from the age of like probably 16 to like their mid to late 20s, because in the Bible it makes a distinction between, like kids and like young men several times, where kids can be seen as like teenagers or whatever, and young men are probably something around like 20s or something. So I guess I'll give some advice to both teenagers, young men, as well as men in their early 20s. I'm not some old person myself who has a ton of experience and wisdom, but I'm only 25. And to be fair, some young men might not even see this. If not, I can just use this as practice for later on down the line. So for like teenagers who are in like high school or whatever, looking back on my own experience, it really was giving into anger and not trying to let your social status, suffer regardless of what you have to do for it. The thing with women, let's see, what else? With women, if you're not as good, a lot of kids or teenagers, whatever, in high school compare themselves to others constantly. I know it's easy not to, and sometimes it's even your own parents that kind of force that idea onto you when they compare you to another kid, which they shouldn't be doing, but don't do that. It also says, I know I read it somewhere, I think in either Galatians or maybe I heard it on the radio earlier when listening to a sermon, that does tell us in the Bible not to compare yourself to others. It leads to things like jealousy, anger, leads you down a wrong path, basically. Now, if you see someone who's doing good, as in leading a godly life or a righteous life or something, and you want to kind of be like them, that's fine. But like comparing yourself to them, oh, I'm not as good at this or good at that or this or that, you shouldn't be doing that. There's a difference between comparing yourself with them and seeing how you're just lacking in this or that, versus wanting to kind of be like someone godly is different. Because one of the things God tells us through Paul is that we all have different talents. You're not going to be as good as something as some other guy in your class, or different class, or different grade, whatever. We're meant for different things. We also have different spiritual gifts. If you're talking about godly things, which are the things that matter, we have different spiritual gifts. As Paul puts it, we're all part of the body of Christ, and the head cannot say to the legs, I am better than you. Each limb, head, arms, legs, and body are all required to complete the full body. We have different functions, but we're all required to complete the body. No part is better than the other. Some people are gonna have more success or fame or notoriety. If we're talking about in a school setting, high schooler, some guys are gonna be more popular, some guys are gonna be less popular. Some guys are gonna get better grades, some guys are gonna get worse grades. Some guys are gonna be better at sports, some guys just aren't gonna play sports, or they are and they're just not good at it. Instead of focusing on, oh, look at all these other guys and how they're good at all these things I kind of want to do. First of all, back up. Do you really care about these other things you're trying to compare yourself with to other guys? Do you actually care about sports? Do you actually care about being popular? Or are you just jealous of like attention and looking to be like you're good at something? If you want attention as you to be good at something, it should be for godly reasons. Like, I don't know, having the gift of encouragement or, wisdom or whatever. It shouldn't be for dumb reasons like, oh, I just want attention because women or girls, or it makes me feel better, feel good when people give me attention. Because things like that pass away as you get older. As you get older, you don't care about any of that. So don't try and hold on to it. I know you hear about that from adults, that like some of these emotions, like wanting attention, doing this and that, they say, oh, you won't care about that as you get older. And I know you hear that a lot, to the point where it feels cliche to say some of that stuff, but it's true. A lot of this dumb crap that you young men like go through and care about, you're gonna grow out of. So don't let it hold you down from doing what is right in the present. There's gonna be a lot of things distracting you. School, wanting to keep up with friends, wanting to have a girl, wanting to play sports, wanting to play games, wanting to be part of a club, wanting to impress your parents. There's going to be a lot of things pulling you in different directions. And I know I can't say for myself that I did this, but the right thing to do is to focus on God and in all of it. And not in a sort of like, oh God, do this for me or give this to me so I can be good at this. You need to have a real relationship with God. And to be fair, I don't expect some 16-year-old kid to fully understand everything when it comes to a relationship with God. And I'm not slandering you either, because I know in the Bible it says, I can't remember who says it, but they say, young men, do not let others look down upon you. I believe it was Paul that said that. Because yeah, you can be young and be really godly and close with God, but someone being very mature and knowing exactly what's going on in their relationship with God and things like that just really doesn't happen. There's a reason in the book of Titus, which this lesson came from. Paul says, when appointing elders, it must be an older man with a wife and children, not anybody who seems mature. As you get older, you'll learn more, gain experience through trial. Learn your relationship with God, learn where He wants you to be, learn how to interact with Him, learn how to come to Him amongst trials instead of to people or things. And it's okay to go to your friends or your family about things that you care about or bringing you down, but God says to come to Him first about it. You shouldn't confide everything into other people. It should be God first, and then if you want to talk about it with other people, that's great. It's fine. Nothing wrong with that. So don't feel like you're in a box and that you don't have anyone. So I know there's a bunch of teenagers who don't have the average normal experience. There's some of you who go through some bad things. And God is there. I know when you're young, you're going to be more prone to emotion, like, oh, if God was real, He wouldn't let this happen to me, or oh, why is this happening to me? But you'll realize when you get older that the truth is we live in a messed up world. All the answers to that sort of stuff come from Genesis with the fall of man. God does not delight in suffering. God did not force some other human being to cause the bad things that happen to you. God gives us free will. And due to free will, things like disease and sickness also happen, and war, and all this terrible stuff. God is there. He's waiting for you to talk to him and actually talk to him. I know I didn't have any clue what I was doing when I first started praying when I was younger. And when I was younger, I also sort of had a thing where, I was a cultural Christian. All I ever prayed to God about was for something that I needed. And it was every so often. If you want a real relationship with God, it's praying every day, giving praise even amongst trials where you're just under terrible stress, talking to him every day and reading the word every day, things like that. It's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. Moving on to younger men in their early 20s. So at this point, you're in college or just got out of college. I guess the first thing I'll talk about is partying. Partying is one of the easiest ways for you to fall into sin. And to be pulled away from things that matter and to get addicted to things that don't matter. I know it might seem like, oh, but I don't have anything else to do, or oh, it's all my friends are doing. Does that make it right? And if you say, oh, it's not right, but I'm still going to do it anyway, there's nothing I can do for you, and that's on you. One thing I can tell you about it, though, is it's not going to bring you any real happiness. What's going to happen the next day? You're going to be like, oh, where's the party at? Where's this? Where's this? Where's that? Where's my next source of short-term happiness to keep me going? Partying's never going to fill you. Or fill that hole in your chest. Nor is having sex with a bunch of women. Or doing drugs. Having a bunch of money. Going around the world. If you're like super rich or something, traveling all around the world, having expensive cars, materialism. I can just say that. I know lots of guys on TikTok push materialism on younger guys. Like, oh, you ain't nothing if you don't have some $500,000 watch on, got some 300K car, got some like several K outfit on, wearing some $1,000 sunglasses. You're nothing if you don't have all that. A lot of young guys fall into that trap, surprisingly. I know sometimes it's because they came from backgrounds where they have nothing, so it's alluring to them. So I want to say to those guys who might be falling for that, it's not going to bring you anything. You might hustle for a while and then you finally get it. Like, yeah, I finally get it. I'm finally making over 100K a year. I've got a great car. I've got all this expensive stuff. And then you're going to realize you're unwilling to take a step back and think. Because you realize if you do, you'll realize it was all for nothing. You'll realize you're not actually happy. And that chasing all of it really didn't bring any good effect for your life. Lots of those guys, you can see it in them when they're in interviews, like young influencers. You can see it on them and in them in the interviews that they refuse to sit back and actually admit or think about things like that. Like, I think it's Jack Doherty, Togi, guys like that who just basically live a life where they're doing the wrong things, and then in interviews they just most of the time refuse to care or admit that they're doing things that aren't going to help them. Sometimes they might even say, oh, but I reached out to God and I didn't hear an answer immediately, or this or that, or a couple times, so I just went back to what I was doing because it gave me some short-term happiness. And it's like, all right. I guess I should also mention that God is not going to take everything away from you. Something that might be causing you stress, Lots of times, God's not going to take that away from you immediately. Could be that he's using that to test you or to build character upon you, like patience, durability. Lots of times this is so you can withstand something that's even worse coming later on. Not that he's causing that thing to happen later on that's going to happen to you, but he's getting you ready for it. So yeah, there's going to be some things you don't understand why God is doing, and that's perfectly all right. There's just going to be times like that. The relationship with God doesn't go smooth for everybody perfectly because we are human and we can't see the whole picture and we're sinful. So don't chase after materialism. It's not going to make you happy. Just try to have a relationship with God, reading the Word. Doesn't mean you have to be the most holy person you know in your life, and that you just have to be, this or that or whatever your idea of being a real Christian is. Just start with the basics. Try to learn from experienced people and elders, whoever that might be in your life, about this stuff, about the Bible, about God, and just take it one step at a time. You don't have to rush into it. You don't have to know everything by a certain time. And if you want to say, oh, wait, what do you mean by a certain time? Like the thief on the cross. All he knew was, Jesus, when you go into your kingdom, remember me. He didn't know nothing else. Nothing else. And Jesus said, truly I tell you, you will be with me in paradise this day. And this day you will be with me in paradise. So, don't rush into it like you got something to prove. Obviously, you can't prove nothing to God, all right? It's just about being humble, being obedient, doing what's right, loving God and loving other people. As Jesus says, love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. Do that, and you'll be all right. If you do things like that, you will actually be happy. You will actually find fulfillment in your life. It may take some time to realize what loving means, loving God and loving others. But I think we all learn that and expound upon that as we get older. Do you have time? Just continue to try and grow and learn. You don't have to have this or that or this or this or everything, by the time you're like 25 to 30 or whatever for some reason. Don't believe everything you see on social media. Lots of times it's fake. I was about to actually end the video there, but I think I'll actually talk about one more topic, which is lust. One of the biggest things I can tell you that I haven't already said is delete your social media. Because one of the reasons I deleted Instagram, that was years ago that I deleted Instagram. I was just following meme accounts and sports accounts, and half of them just started doing paid shout-outs for OnlyFans girls accounts. So it was every time I opened up Instagram, a bunch of the stuff I would see was just women dancing half naked or something. I could see the same thing on Twitter, and I was trying to remember if I had anything else, but I think those are the only two I had, Instagram and Twitter. I never had TikTok or anything like that. TikTok or Vine or whatever. If it's one of the things that falls directly under when Jesus says, if something causes you to stumble, cut it off. Cut it off. If you're unwilling to do that, again, then it's on you. If you want to use social media to keep up with friends, follow them only. Talk to them only. Interact with them only. Don't go looking out at all this other stuff, all this other crap. And guys, I know a lot of young women these days, I don't want to hate on women, but a lot of young women these days don't wear what is considered appropriate, at least by God. And you might think, oh, it's not easy to not give into lust into my heart and stuff like that, but it's like they may dress inappropriately. But if we're being honest, you are still looking and lusting in your mind, in your head about it. What God basically is saying in the Bible is, you're going to have that stuff put in front of your eyes at some point eventually anyway. You need to be able to withstand it. You know, that doesn't mean going out and seeing it all the time. Like, it doesn't matter that you're seeing it all the time. Like, if you're seeing it on social media, like I said, get rid of it. Obviously, out and about in the public, you'll eventually see it. Obviously, I can say don't give into pornography, but I know that is a whole can of worms for you guys. When it came to that, God basically just took it away from me. That's not something I worked so really hard towards to, stop giving into. It was God taking it away from me. That's it. I didn't do anything on my own part. It was God. And how that came about, which I talked about in my experience in one of my first videos, was an encounter with the Spirit when fasting. And part of that, after that experience, kind of feeling on fire for God a little bit there as well for a while, I realized, like, pornography and giving into stuff like that was just kind of taken out of me. Like, I just don't give into it anymore. Of course, I get tempted to. It gets thrown into my head by, like, evil or myself. But I don't give into it, because now I know that I can trust in God, trust in the Spirit. One of the things, this is the last thing. One of the things is you need to realize you aren't good enough. That's why grace exists. So don't think you can fight spiritual warfare as like, oh, I'm not good enough to fight spiritual warfare, I need to get better. No, you don't get better. You just trust in God more. You just trust in the Spirit more. You give it up to God. You don't sit there and be like, oh, I gotta be better at patience or the way I think about things so I'm better at spiritual warfare. Like, no, you can't get better at it. All you can get better at is giving to God and talking to God about it. And He will guide you away from it. I hope everyone has a good day. Whoever sees this, if anyone does see this, I got some comments on my last video, so thank you guys for that. That was really nice. I think tomorrow is November 1st, so happy November.